sitting here typing an email to send out to my email list, and the thought occurred to me, so many musicians are really bad at self-promotion. They're insecure, which I totally get. They have the question of who would want to hear from me, which I totally get. They wonder, do I have any value to bring to the world, which I totally get. But just creating good music is never going to be enough. If it's enough, if you want to create music and you would just enjoy it and that's it, great. If you have ambitions of getting your music out there and heard by people, then you have to become a business person. You have to think like a business and not just like an artist. In the old days, there were labels and you could just be the artist and the label would do all the marketing, promotion. That's just not the case anymore for most musicians, right? So if you can get in the habit of thinking like a business, of finding ways to create value that either people are willing to share, so you create content people will share, so you get value from them sharing your content or whatever it is you're doing, or if you can create value that is so valuable people are willing to pull out their wallet and part with their money, it's as simple as that. Music, if you want to make a living at it, or if you just want it to reach a lot of people, you have to think like a business person. Create the art. That's the first step. That's why Home Studio Corner exists, to give you the resources to be able to create good sounding music. But once it's created, it's not going to distribute itself. And just slapping it on iTunes isn't going to make things blow up for you. It's all about putting in the work. It's all about thinking like a business person, thinking like a salesperson. As much as those may sound like dirty words to you, the most successful musicians you see are ones who get this and who not only make great music, but also work their butts off to make things happen for them as far as their brand and their career. My wife is rocking a pressure washer right now. I gotta go get some gas before she runs out.
When I left 6 years ago, you were a boy, only 10 years old, now you're grown.
So take me for example. I run Home Studio Corner. It started because I'm a musician and I wanted a place to create content around music, specifically around recording and audio. Turned into a business. How do I promote that business? You're watching it, right? I want to sell a handful of people into some courses or book clients through the content that I create. And the way I do that is by creating the thing that I want to give away. Musicians, a lot of musicians, just want to create an album and then sell it, but never create anything else and giving it away. They think the music is the thing they're going to sell, so they don't create anything else of value to prove that they're valuable to the marketplace, so that then the market might want to actually purchase their music. It's just backwards. It doesn't work. So, do you have to start something like Home Studio Corner in order to be successful in music? No. But it should give you an example of what's actually required, the amount of work involved to build up a following and a fan base who are willing to give you some money for whatever it is that you're offering. It's a lot of work. So now you're probably thinking I'm some old curmudgeon who's grumpy about the way things are or the way things used to be. I'm not. I think this is the greatest time ever to be making music, both from a technology standpoint and from a distribution standpoint. The internet's freaking awesome. You can now, like just yesterday, I recorded guitars for a guy who lives on the other side of the world, and we communicate instantly. It's just amazing. While so many things have changed, the fact that the basic laws of business and economics haven't changed. You create something of value. If it indeed is valuable, then people will want it. Start there.
It's 14 hours by car.
As most of us are painfully aware, home studios aren't always the quietest environments in which to work, so you gotta be flexible. My wife is running a pressure washer, super loud, just right outside. So what I had planned for this morning was to write some songs and record them. That's not gonna happen. So I'm switching things around and gonna do some setups. Well, I'll tell you about it later. But first, I need to clean this room.
5 by plane, if I don't get in Cincinnati.
I'm excited. I'm doing a podcast interview with, get ready for this, Darth Vader himself.
I'm your father.
That's awesome.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have Joe Gilder on the show today. We're going to be asking him some questions, picking his brain.
Still, it's just so far.
Well, that was fun. Big thanks to Robert McClellan at Home Studio Simplified for having me on his podcast. I appreciate it. If you're a podcast listener and you listen to other podcasts and you think they'd be a good fit to do some kind of cross-promotion stuff, let me know. Or better yet, hit the podcaster up on Twitter and tag me, Joe Gilder Music, and let's see if we can make some podcast interviews happen. Okay?
I'm not made of time, and I'm sure not made of money.
You know how I'm always saying, get it right at the source? And I even came up with that dumb acronym, GIRATS, which doesn't spell anything, but stands for get it right at the source. Anyway, it applies to audio, of course, but it really applies to video as well. Let me show you what I'm talking about. This isn't a video tutorial, I just think it's interesting. Pay attention, look at how I look right now. I'm gonna change one thing, and notice how drastically things change because of this one thing, okay? I'll do it in 3, 2, 1. Pretty crazy, right? What changed? Well, it looks worse. If you remember the video earlier where I was cleaning up the studio, when I was talking to the camera, it was grainy, it was dark, it wasn't a great shot. Now, you could say, well, it's because your back's to a window, dummy. That's true. And when I walk over there and have this nice, beautiful sun shining in my face, the video looks amazing. But over here with that behind me, it's not an option, which is why I haven't, to this point in this vlog, I haven't done a video from this direction, even though it looks cool, because you got the studio behind me. I've not done that. Why? Because of this one thing. So I'm sure you can guess what the one thing is, but let me show you. See what I mean about the beautiful sunlight? It makes my baby blues look so nice. The difference, as you can imagine, is lighting. Lighting is something I don't know all that much about. I'm not really a video guy, but over the course of making videos, I've learned that lighting is important and that better lighting equals a better product. I remember years ago, I think it was Ronan, it was Ronan Chris Murphy, posted a video where he took a fairly inexpensive digital camera to this event where there was a bunch of things on display and they were lit really well. And it made his cheap little camera create amazing footage because the lighting was right. It's the same thing in audio, same exact thing. If you've got an amazing musician playing an amazing song and giving an amazing performance, it really, in a lot of ways, doesn't matter what microphone you put in front of him. It's going to be amazing. That said, the environment needs to be right and everything needs to be in place. So it's a little bit different because obviously lighting is not the same as audio, but it has similarities in that the setup and the area around the musician needs to be working. Some of that's acoustic treatment, some of that is mic choice, some of that is mic placement, but all of it has to do with the reason the video earlier looked good with me was because I had extra lighting on me. The source itself looked better. If you were standing in front of me, it would look better than it did before. So let me show you what I've got. If you look over my shoulder, you'll see I've got some lighting set up. So this lamp has always been here, okay? In the corner over there, there's one light, and then there's another light kind of hanging off this cabinet. And I've got a switch here. By the way, I've been avoiding showing you this ugly thing for years, for at least a year. It's just a hideous fan. I need to replace it or change it out for something. But anyway, so as you can see, got these lights and they're all wired to one switch. So when I go boink, they all come on and it jacks up my focus. Here we go. So there, they're all on. Now, let's go look a little closer. The thing you'll notice about these, they're not fancy lights. They're literally like this kind of, I don't know, construction sort of light that you can buy at a Home Depot with a natural bulb, diffusion paper, binder clips, and I've just got them spread out. So it's nothing fancy, it's probably not proper, but when I turn the camera around and these lights are in place, I look awesome. That's still not quite. Okay, there we go. It looks good. Whereas before, when I turned these off, let's do it. Let's do it again. Just because it's fun to flip switches. Obviously, this is better lighting, but it's nice to have options for when I want to be on that side of the room shooting this direction. Even with a window behind me, with the proper lighting in front, the camera will adjust. And even here, you can see the camera's trying to make the best of this situation. But I'm grainier, everything behind me, I look like I have a halo behind me. It's not a bad image, right? This is better. That's not awful, but that is much better. See what I did? Tricky editing, got the lights on without moving. So, what's the takeaway from all this? What's the point? Two things. First of all, before you get any technology involved, whether you're doing music or video, or really anything creative, before technology enters the picture, get the thing right in its space, whatever that means. So if it's a song, get the song right before you ever grab a microphone or an iPhone or a computer or an interface. If it's video, make sure the shoot itself, the what's it called? What do they call it in video? Composition. Make sure the composition is good, that everything, it looks like it should look before you even pull out a camera. I'm not a camera expert, but the concepts apply no matter what you're doing. So that's the first thing. Get the thing right before you bring technology into the picture. But the second thing, and the thing I probably don't talk about enough, is make sure that you've got good technology to capture the thing. For years, up until literally starting this GilderCam series of videos, I was using cheap cameras. I'd use my phone, which is okay, or I'd use these wide-angle lens cameras that just weren't very good, didn't capture good video. They were okay, but they weren't great. So I would set up the nice lighting, but it couldn't handle either low light or good light. It just couldn't quite handle it. My face would be all washed out. And it wasn't so much an environment problem as it was an equipment problem. So you may be surprised hearing that come from me, Mr. Just use what you have, but you've got to have decent equipment, right? You've got to have good equipment. Now, I don't have a $8,000 camera in front of me right now, but I've got a good, decent one. It's the same thing in the studio. You've seen, I've got nice guitars and nice preamps and decent microphones, because that's what it takes. On the back end, I use stock plugins to mix. I don't see much of a need for the others. I get the sounds I want mostly during recording. Mixing's kind of an afterthought, to be honest. Take from that what you will. There's an ant trying to get my camera. Stop it. Ooh. So not the most productive day in the history of the world, but it's still a good day. And I'm happy with the work I did. It's beautiful outside. I would have just spent the whole day out there, but I like it in here too. I want to say thank you for watching these. It's kind of baffling sometimes that you would even find this interesting, but I hope it is interesting and I hope it's helpful and encouraging. And I will say for me, and I've only been doing, this is what, episode 6? I forget. Doing this is really helpful for me. It helps me to be more intentional with my day and not to just blow off a whole day, because I've been known to blow off whole days. Doing stuff that ultimately isn't really what I want to do. It helps me get in here and create and make music, and it's a good thing, so thank you. I have you to thank for that. And writing this song that I wrote today.
And the thoughts and the lies are like the tears that fill my eyes, till my heart no longer sees. But then you give me just what I need.
I didn't want to. Whenever it's time to write, I never want to, but I make myself sit down and do it, and some cool things happen. Now, I didn't write this one from scratch, so it was a little easier, but I think it gave me kind of a good kind of momentum boost going into the next week and a half or so when I need to write more, and probably write one every day. And it makes me a little more excited to do that because I got something that I think I'm going to be proud of and think might be a favorite. I could be wrong, but it doesn't really matter at this point. It's just given me kind of that shot in the arm that I need, and I'm ready to go do it again tomorrow. So thank you so much for watching. Probably going to call it quits here.
Been so long since I've seen the stars on a cool clear night with my baby by my side. Though the stars, they haven't changed, nothing's the same.